I think James has just went in. Oh, what's that?
Oh no, I fell down.
But James isn't on the one.
Oh my god, I've been knocked off the side.
Oh my god, look at this.
I didn't even die, you know?
New World has been out for a little while now, and I want to share some of my new experiences and updates with the game. Previously, I talked about my first 24 hours with the game, and there are a lot of server issues with players queuing for over 7 hours just to log into their game server. Since then, things have improved and I've had the chance to experience some more types of content, from player housing to group content like PvP and dungeons. Overall, I am enjoying my time with New World. The game obviously has lots of flaws and issues, and I don't think I'll be sticking to it long term, but at the moment I'm very much enjoying the journey with friends. I'd say the game is best played with friends, but you can literally say that about any game. So speaking of the server issues, I actually ended up re-rolling onto another server with friends. The queues were just too much. This new server was recently added with a much lower population, which as a bonus also meant a lot less competition with other players for materials in the game world. But I had to completely remake and re-level my character from scratch, which took a bit of time. Amazon Games have opened over 100 new servers, but they've also made it so that you cannot create characters on highly populated servers. So if you wanted to play on the same server as your friends, well, you're screwed at this point. Amazon made a post telling players to play on lower population servers, then within 2 weeks they'll offer free server transfers, no limitations and freely between regions. So loads of players have split off from their friends and played on low population servers, with the plan to use the free server transfer to rejoin their friends within 2 weeks. But Amazon have delayed the free transfers and U-turned on their statement. You now can't transfer to full servers and you cannot transfer between regions, so now loads of players are stuck on completely different servers to their friends. Players are not happy, and rightly so. I was at least lucky enough that all my friends re-rolled onto the same server. So roughly back up to where I was originally, I tried some of the world PvP with some friends. This takes the form of faction missions, where we'll need to complete simple quest objectives with PvP enabled. These missions can help spark big fights between the factions. We show a few dirty marauders and Covenant the pecking order on this server, and as we're playing we come across a few fellow Syndicate players, and we all end up grouping up and continue the hunt for fresh victims. It was kind of fun. It's at this point the group comes across its big first corruption point. The corruption point itself corrupted the landscape within its vicinity and had extra tough monsters. We opted to scrap the PvP and try to clean up this corruption. We fought off waves of corrupted enemies, and the last few were really tough. We made use of the environment and kited the enemies around. They hit like trucks and it was a challenge. We enjoyed ourselves so much we then cleaned up the other lesser corruption points on the map, which helped strengthen our faction's influence in the area. Corruptions are cool, but they got very repetitive fast. There's not much variation in the types of corruptions, and there's a lot of copy-paste, so it gets a bit grindy long term. Looking back at the world PvP, factions were making war over the hamlets, so after doing enough PvP faction missions in a location, one faction can declare war on an opposing faction's hamlet. This will schedule a war battle that players can sign up for and help siege or defend land. This all sounds really exciting, and I signed up for the next war battle, but so did 300 other Syndicate players. It turns out the guilds that initiated the war, they get to handpick their 50 players for the battle from a long list of players who have signed up. So naturally their guild members are going to get priority, which is fair. But I never got called to the battle. The entire roster of 50 players was one single guild, and within about 7 minutes the so-called war was over. My faction had taken over the land and Purple Syndicate players were dancing in the city. It's a little bit disappointing that these battles are limited to only 50 players. I'm not sure I'll even ever experience one of these wars. That's when my friends and I decided to form our own guild. Offended easily, lol. It's just a small scale guild and we're not too serious. One of the benefits of being on a low population server in MMOs is that there's a better sense of community. We've been making friends and allies with strangers as we play. And it turns out the community is going to be really important, because New World story quests eventually force you to do the game's first dungeon. You can enter with 3 to 5 players, but it does not scale. The difficulty stays the same no matter how many players you bring. So naturally we went with 4 players. Some underleveled and it was easy peasy.
Oh god, I'm my god, look at this.
I didn't even die, either.
Okay, maybe not that easy. Dungeons require you to make your own group. There's no group finder or dungeon finder. You have to communicate with other players and team up. This is more of an old school MMORPG design choice and is going to turn a lot of players off. I'm one of the few that actually likes this, and I see it as an opportunity to play with more friends and make new allies. Just outside the dungeon there's loads of players looking to group up at the moment, but I imagine there will be a lot less players later down the game's lifespan. But the dungeon itself is the Amrine Expedition, where a famed archaeologist and his team have gone missing, and will need to discover what happened with the ancient technology they unearthed. Running through the dungeon there's lots of trash monsters, also some treasure chests hidden about. And this dungeon has a simple puzzle, where we had to find and activate 3 switches to extend a bridge. The monsters around the bridge will try to knock you off the bridge, which is pretty cool. But it's a little bit disappointing that the 2 major bosses aren't unique 3D models. They're just the same monsters we've fought before, but with different names and abilities. The final boss was quite tough. You'd keep resummoning zombie ads after they've been killed, and the boss hits like a truck. We eventually came up with a strategy to kite the boss around while the tank held onto all the zombie ads. Overall, the dungeon was decent. It was the experience of doing this with friends and trying to figure out the puzzles or strategies to overcome the difficulty that made this a really fun experience. We've ran the dungeon a few times for loot, experience points, and to get people through it. Next dungeon is level 35 and I'm ready to do it and looking forward to it. I'm waiting for my friends to catch up, but I've found a few ways to have my own fun in the meantime. I've also managed to save up enough money to buy my own house. I got one in Everfall, that's the region I started in and have the most influence in. The housing system is quite simple. You pay taxes every week to maintain your house at a plot in a hamlet, and multiple people can have a house at the same plot. The game world just shows the highest rated house in that plot to other players. I've said it before, the crafting and gathering system is perhaps the best part of New World, and you can take the time to build furniture for your house to decorate it. A dungeon I did earlier also earned me a pretty awesome pet dog that I've placed on my front porch. Leveling up is still a bit hit and miss. Faction missions and side quests continue to be very generic fetch style quests, and the storytelling isn't so captivating. The main storyline quests are a little bit higher quality, but they're not enough to sustain you. They're few and far between. You'll often need to mix in your faction missions, gathering, crafting, town orders, dungeon runs, and side quests to top up the experience points to reach the next story quests. Just wherever possible, I recommend playing with a group or friends because it really reduces the monotony of some of the leveling up. I can admit the game has loads of flaws, but I'm still kind of addicted to the journey through this game. I especially want to experience more of the dungeons with friends. But just in general gameplay, you'll be doing quests, and you'll often just find yourself wandering off the beaten track for a rare ore or a rare herb, and it's almost like a little dopamine hit every time you do a little bit of gathering and get a skill up. The gameplay expands on this core concept. You could then craft with these materials, increasing your crafting skills, and allow you to decorate your house, make new armor or weapons, or make something currently in high demand to sell through the player-driven trading posts. New World as a whole is a very socially driven game. You'll see players teaming up and communicating, or arguing and debating the tax rates of certain cities. If you're a completely solo player when it comes to MMOs, you're going to have a few hurdles to get over. I mentioned it before, the biggest one is the dungeons requiring communication and pre-made groups, and the main story quests require you to complete dungeons. This is a socially focused game, and that's what I want in an MMORPG. I want this to feel like a living world. I want everyone to feel like they have a role in the world, and for the most part, New World succeeds at this, for now. I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is, will New World last in the long term? There's 2 max level dungeons, no raids, and there's PvP. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens, and see how Amazon nurture the game with future content patches. But for now, I'm enjoying the journey. If you're already playing New World, you're a PC gamer, you're going to want to check out my video on too many launchers ruining PC gaming. That'll be on screen now, but for now, peace.